Okay, we're going to look into a four-parter here on tattooed Scythian warriors and their connections and possible descendants of the ancient Amazons. Now, you look at this tattooed individual up here, and there's a couple of marks on the shoulder, or on the forearm, or upper arm, both. And then on this shoulder, which is what's really seen in the picture, is a great cat. And a lot of people have said a few different things, but I really think this is a tiger. You can see the striping and swirling that they've tried to put on this and the way that it looks cutting across, and it just has that definitive look. You can also see there's these lines all cutting off of it for some reason here in the back, which is kind of odd, almost like a lightning thing, but yeah, we'll look into this. This all makes some connections during this. Although the article's pretty good, and it doesn't allow for too much deviation, but you know me, I'm full of a bunch of rivers, but then again, all these rivers will lead to one. So let's go ahead and get into this here. Herodotus, the ancient historian, father of histories, described the Scythians living in the area north of the Black Sea about 3,000 years ago. And according to him, they traced their ancestry directly from Zeus and the river nymph Borysthenes. And this is where the name Boris comes from, by the way, but she is the daughter of the river god Borysthenes, and the union of which produced a son named Tagetaus. And he in turn had three sons. That kind of sounds familiar. With a human woman were demigods who were the progenitors of three Scythian tribes. So basically the eastern, central, and far western versions of Scythians at that time. It's said that in the time of the sons of Tagetaus, there came down from heaven 4 items made of gold, and this might sound familiar. These items were a plow, a yoke, a cup, and a battle axe. In a lot of cultures, especially like the Sumerians, you'll see how they're given the plow and so on, and there's ceremonies of giving the cup and things, and then this cup was supposed to be the cup that you used to imbibe and put the things in to feed the gods, right, and to give them their offerings. Each brother attempted to use the items, but they were met with a blazing fire or great heat. But when the youngest approached the items, the fire was gone, and they worked only for him. And from him the tribe of the royal Scythians was formed. Now, if one looks at such a tale with modern eyes, you can imagine that the items were technologically coded only to function for one individual and possibly dangerous, as was also said that anyone who slept while guarding these items in the open would die within a year. So there's a folklore around here like, hey man, yeah, people get killed for this type of magical stuff or whatever that they have. It's forming here, but you could also see that this goes with like Mjolnir and the idea no one else can pick up this hammer, which, in all due aspects, really it's about 30-pound hammer here, 25, 30-pound hammer. The big old one that you get there, oh yeah, that thing's going to get up in that 60, 80-pound range of a hammer and stuff, but and the reality of the one that's shown and things, and this hammer too, hammer comes out of the idea of forging, okay? And battle axes come out of the idea of cutting down trees and being a warrior with that same axe. And then a sickle is also for reaping grain, but that obsidian blade can become quite deadly too. And so you get variations on a theme of this, but let me just go on through here. I've got a lot I could say, but let's continue. While Herodotus, the historian and teller of this tale, doubted that the Scythians were indeed the descendants of Zeus, he nonetheless recorded their accounts And so this is like the father of hearsays, where he records everybody's accounts, and they say, these people say they were the first of all people. These people said that they were this. These people say they were that. It's kind of what he kind of did. He recorded their accounts. He nonetheless recorded them, though, and he also tells a different account where they are the descendants of another of Zeus's sons, Hercules, and the half serpent, half goddess Echidna, which is kin to, again, that serpent in the Bible, which is really like a half person, half snake concept. And echidnas, if you look at the name we've given for them, are a plated or an armored type creature. And this leads you to the ideas of Medusa and things that come along with it. But let's continue. That story seems to be a lot more fanciful telling of the first story, and involves many of the same events, though, and people have said the same thing, that like, well, I'm going to whip it up a notch or whatever to it. But some of these might also just be a typology and a reflection of the same thing, and this river god idea and all these things that go with it, and nymphs and butterflies and trees and so on. He goes on to say that he favors a third version of their origins, which tells of a wandering Asiatic tribe that migrated into the lands of the Sumerians. Yeah, so that leads that Proto-Indo-European in there quite a bit, but it'll get a lot deeper. The longer you look, the origin of the Scythians becomes more and more cloudy, and some scholars contend that the Scythians referred to by Herodotus are really only the remnants of a much earlier people who were once widespread and very advanced, with great cities, ships, farming, and herding. If we remember the story of the golden plow, yoke, cup, and battle axe, we could infer that farming must have been important to the early Scythians if their gods saw fit to gift them with a magical plow and a yoke. Not a very practical gift, though, for a nomadic horseman, now is it? So isn't that kind of strange that they would have this land thing that, yeah. It possibly seems very likely, since the Scythians of Herodotus' time were known to be nomadic, and the earlier Scythians are credited with developing and smelting of iron and bronze, and the invention of the battle axe, which is actually accredited to the Amazons among the Scythians, but also the pottery wheel, the bellows, and also the anchor, and the sciences of horse breeding. And you can see the ancient Aryan burials from everywhere that had these horses and horses brought down. They really, like in the Bible and everything, they only have donkeys, right? Even in early Samaria, they only have donkeys and things. And down there in the south, in Egypt, they only had donkeys and things and stuff until the Hyksos came down, and with them they brought a recurved bow. They brought a better wheel, a chariot that was able to be harnessed onto horses and trained. Yeah, and they weren't like a donkey where, man, donkeys can be a little temperamental. These horses were doing it. And you can see it once it happens in Egypt. They have these parade ponies just running over people and always showing these great battles with them and stuff. And indeed, that was really the tank of its time, if you will, or something along that line. It really became a statute of warfare for everybody for a long time. I mean, up through Roman times and everything. Titus of the Bible and his four-horse chariots and stuff, and the deal of Revelations and him coming in on the white horse and all of that goes with it. But we're not in those histories now. We're in Herodotus and some of the Scythians that we're talking about. But there's another connection of how things got there, one way or another. So what's strange about the anchor, too, along with that plow, is that one has to wonder why nomads would invent an anchor. And so maybe they're nomadic now but maybe they weren't so much, or maybe this is a portion of people that are nomadic out of the group. Fred Hammurabi wrote that Justinius II referred to the Scythians as one of the oldest civilizations in the world, even older than the Egyptians, and that they were most likely a northern Mesopotamian culture. Ding! Not the later immigrant tribes who adapted many of their customs. The Scythians described by the Greeks were apparently an amalgamation of many peoples, overlaying a very ancient culture that existed in the area around the Black Sea. And there's another confirmation. Whether their origins, the Scythians were a remarkable people with very ancient origin that still remains somewhat of a mystery, but we've been unraveling that here. However, two more tales of the Scythians are even stranger. One is the story of the bald people, who were once a part of the royal Scythians, but separated themselves and went to live isolated at the foot of a mountain. Herodotus describes them as thus: passing over a great extent of this rough country, you come to a people dwelling at the foot of lofty mountains, who are said to be all, both men and women, bald from their birth, to have flat noses and very long chins. So you can imagine somebody with a squished nose and the Jay Leno jaw, bottom jaw, like he's real underslung or something. It just almost makes no sense trying to picture these people, unless and the Greeks were very flat-faced, but it's strange telling. It tells you these people speak a language of their own. The dress in which they wear is the same as the Scythian, though. They live on the fruit of a certain tree, which isn't going to work good, the name of which is Ponticum. And in size, it is about equal to our fig tree, and it bears a fruit like a bean with a stone inside of the bean. No one harms these people, for they are looked upon as sacred. They do not even possess any warlike weapons. When their neighbors fall out, they make up for the quarrel, and when one flies to them for refuge, he is safe from all hurt. They are called the Agrypæans. And what's Agrippa? Huh. Well, we have a race of people who believe they were descended from the three sons of a god. They are so early, even in the time of Herodotus, that their origins were an ancient history. They believed that they had received technology directly from their gods. A small number of them, described as not normally humans, lived apart and served as judges and protectors, and the strange story gets even stranger. Now we'll bring in the Amazons. It seems that in all the histories, the Scythians, one point is either marginalized or simply mentioned as if it's not important, but I contend that it is of utmost importance if we are to truly understand the psyche of the Scythians, the existence of the Amazons, and the fact of the history of all of humanity. And I believe so too, and I've been trying to show this to you in a myriad of different videos, and focusing here recently and since the first of the year back on this, like I said I was going to do in the Christmas video. So we're going to go on to part 2 now. It's going to show up in your top left hand corner, and you click on it and go. From then on, if you ever want to go back to 1, it's in your top right hand corner, and I guess anybody that shows up in any of the later videos can do that, but I guess I'll have to tell them then they wouldn't have seen this yet. Anyhow, guys, like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, we're going to hit this thing here on Scythians and these tattooed people and this tiger. And oh yeah, let me hit you with that again real quick. I've said it about 3 times lately, but so there was lions all over the place, and Barbary lions all over North Africa too that no longer really exist. There's a few hybrids that are in zoos. You can look this up. They have extra fur right behind their armpits and stuff, and this is very much like the ones you see in the Sumerians and all these guys. But the Sumerians have the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and on the other side of that Tigris, you see certain cats don't cross water really. And on the other side of that Tigris, what you find are tigers, and they're not just right there on the other side of the river. And a tiger will go through a small amount of river, but tigers are over there and up there some. And amazingly, these people way up there and where they are, above and off tuned to the Black Sea at this time, have tiger tattoos. And that's just about as strange as these supposedly nomadic people who carry around anchors with them, and people that tell you they have a golden plow bought from their god, but they're not stopping and farming anywhere. Till later. And we'll get to that in the second part. Top left-hand corner, guys. We'll see you there. Peace.